So a few years ago, it was not a gift that came from me, but it was or my wife. But one of I really honestly don't matter. It doesn't matter probably, but I don't remember who actually gave it to our girls. But I have three. If you don't know, I have three girls, 16, 14, and 10, and I got to escape tonight. I don't know if this is taped or on live stream, but man, it was a tough night at our house. And so I said to my wife, I was like, see you later, as she's dealing with one at the moment. And so we have the three girls. And a couple years ago, somebody I think got them just something nice. Like friends that'll get them something that they have to get everything obviously the same. Like, because if not, you hear it's not fair, right? I don't know if you've ever been around kids. It's not fair. They got something bigger, they got something better, it's more, there's more chocolate, whatever it is. So there was, I think it was Madeline, that was a close friend of theirs, I guess you could say. She had watched the girls for years and years. And so it may not have been her, but they get these masks, and it was at Christmas time. And they were like, I don't know if they were beauty masks or like, I don't really know what they were, but you put them on, like your face. Like, I don't know if it was supposed to do something to your skin. I'm not really sure. I'm really not into that kind of stuff. All I know is this. It was after Christmas. We were at my in-laws, which is in Western Maryland, up in the mountains, very remote area where they're at. And so that night, the girls decided that it was time to break out these masks and like have like a spa night. And so one by one, the girls put the mask on. And they had it on, and they followed the instructions, and it said maybe I don't know if it was to get it wet or what, and they had it on their face. And one by one, they were enjoying their spa treatment. Until our youngest, we started noticing something, like under the mask, and around the mask, and then across her face, and then around her neck. And so we jumped, right? And we pulled it off. And she had had some type of very strong allergic reaction to the mask. And at that moment, desperation set in. Me as a father, right? We didn't know what to do, honestly. And in the small town where my in-laws live, the hospital is one of those hospitals you just don't like to visit, I mean, even people that live there, they drive an hour to go to a good hospital. We're not sure what to do, and we're now in panic mode. And here's the thing. She was even in panic mode. Like, she was scared, and she didn't know what to do. And so what do you think that I did? This is what I did. I grabbed my phone first, and I have a group of guys that I pray with. And I literally said, I need prayer right now. This is what's happening. Please pray. And we just started praying, and we started researching quick. My wife's a researcher, so we were just trying to, is there something that we can counteract it, and what? Here's the point. And you might say, what's the point? The point is this: desperation, right? I think that's probably a good indication of desperation, right? If we look at a dictionary definition, it's literally the state of being despair, or to be in despair. It's extreme behavior, right? Rash, But desperation. Have you ever looked in the eyes of somebody that's just desperate? Like, have you ever had that opportunity? I'm sure that you've had. If maybe you can't think of something, but if you sat and thought about it for a while, I think you'd probably come up with somebody whose life just needed help. And you look in their eyes and you just see desperation, and they just get this sense that life's tough, right? So if we go to Luke 8, and it says in Luke 8, 8:40, and now Jesus returned, and the crowd had welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And then a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue, falling at Jesus' feet, he implored him to come to his house, for he had a daughter about 12 years of age, and she was dying. Desperation, right? Desperation. I mean, I really feel like a good indication of desperation is, think about maybe if you're a parent, when a child was like hurt, and it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do, right? Desperation. And then Jesus went, the people pressed around him, and there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all of her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. Immediately, her discharge of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds are surrounding you and are pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone from me." And then the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And then he said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Stop just for a second. You think about this, okay, as a dad, right? I'm coming to Jesus, and what did it say? I fell at his feet. You've got to come right now. My daughter is dying, right? Okay, let's go. And then as we go, we get sidetracked, right? Somebody comes up, a need presents itself, right? So let's pick back up, 49. While he was still speaking, someone from the ruler's house came and said, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher. Do not trouble Jesus anymore." But Jesus, on hearing this, answered, "Do not fear, only believe, and she will be well." And when he came to the house, he allowed no one to enter with him except Peter, John, and James, and the father and the mother of the child. And all were weeping and mourning for her. But he said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But taking her by the hand, he called, saying, "Child, rise." And her spirit returned, and she got up at once. And he directed that someone should be given her something to eat. And her parents were amazed, but he charged them not to tell no one what had happened. Desperation, right? Desperation. I've got to get Jesus. We've got to go quick. She's dying. And then he stops. That father has to be like, "Come on." I mean, I don't know if you ever get at a traffic light and you're just like, "Come on, just drive your car," right? She's healed, right? She's healed. So tonight, why desperation? Why desperation? Here's why. I don't know how you feel right now, but I feel heavy. And if my wife was here, she'd laugh and she'd say, "Just because you eat too much food." No, I feel heavy tonight. I have this sense of desperation. You might say, "What for?" I have this sense of desperation for something that I can't fix, I can't do anything for, and that's for Israel at the moment. And today, as crazy as the day that I've had with 120 middle schoolers, and trust me, it was a tough one today. Jesus help me for tomorrow. All day today, God just kept bringing me back to this thought of desperation and just Israel. And I came up with this. This was the kind of the challenge. And again, I don't know what you do typically on Wednesday nights. And I told you it's going to be a little interactive here in a few minutes. I just felt really heavy as I just feel this desperation for us just to come together in just a few minutes and just spend some time praying for Israel. And really just to lift up our brothers and sisters that are facing this. I got this verse, and it's a verse everyone knows and probably everybody loves, but Matthew 11:28. "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light." Come to me. Come to me. I have to tell you, today when I started getting the reports of, looking to make sure there's no kids, when I started getting reports of kids, babies, heads being decapitated, like I just, in front of their mom or their father, I was so broken and desperate. When you start hearing of these things that we here at New Life, we can't do anything about at this very moment. The only thing we can do is come together and pray. Just come together and pray. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Let me stop here just for a second and share just something on this, and I don't want because I have to set it up for you, and then I'm going to play you something. Some of you, maybe like me, Saturday morning came, and my Saturdays, I spend most of every Saturday, half the day at the Dream Center in Lakeland. And so I got up, I'd taken off, and I'm doing my thing. And I really if I'm honest, I try to stay away from the news anymore, you know? I'm just being honest. I just don't do it. I can't do it. I get frustrated. I get worked up. I can handle football. That's in Michigan football, just saying. Anyhow, so I didn't hear anything. And then later in Saturday, somebody said, like, hey, have you been hearing the reports out? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And then it starts. So this summer, I was given the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and attend the summit. And the summit, the CUFI summit. CUFI stands for, if you don't know, it's Christians United for Israel. And so I was able to be there for 5 days, I guess, this summer with Pastor John Hagee and his team and all the people. And it was phenomenal. Listening to just one person after another speak on Israel and then bring it back to the Bible. And just, it was absolutely incredible. And so now that I'm back in, obviously, Lakeland, and I'm teaching at VCA again, I'm the advisor for CUFI. So CUFI talks to us directly, shares information. We have a club for our students. And so we just literally had, last week our first kind of CUFI meeting where we had students, high school students that came together and just to pray for Israel, right? We had 17 students that showed up last Wednesday for lunch. And so Israel's like kind of a bigger thing right now for me. Like you'll see a shirt, I'll say Israel Matters. I wear it a lot around the school. If you walk into my classroom now, you'll see an Israel flag. The students know, like, Dr. Diehl's talking about Israel again, and some of it's just because of the summer and just some of the stuff that God has opened some of my eyes to that maybe I just maybe passed by, right? So kind of a new revelation, a new passion, I guess, I've even spoke at chapel at VCA, the middle school and high school chapel, about it. And it's been so good, right? Just for me, kind of like this discovery into something new. And so because of that, and because I'm connected with CUFI and talk to them multiple times a week, and they help us with stuff and so forth, they on Monday sent out an email, and I'm going to let you guys listen to something. They sent an email out really quick Monday and said that they were having a war briefing if anybody could join. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, I've got to get somebody to cover my class. I don't care if I call Pastor Greg to come down because he's a former educator and cover my class. I need somebody to cover my class because I want to sit through this war briefing and just hear what they have to say. And this was on Monday. And so they covered my class. I was able to go with 3 other students and Mrs. Collins as well. And we sat and we listened to this colonel from the IDF, Israel Defense Force, and listened to him for 15 minutes share about just what has happened over the weekend. So I thought tonight, before we pray, it would be fitting for you to listen to it. This is somebody that's there. This is a colonel that is a part of the IDF. He actually was a guest this summer at the summit in Washington, D.C. They flew him over from Israel, and he had a session, and it was so good that they brought him back for the next day to talk again. and he just shared about the reality of what they're facing and stuff. So we're going to listen to this, and then after we listen, I'm going to give you some instructions, some prayer points, and we're just going to take a couple minutes and pray. Set the mic down so that you can hear it. Let me say this. I started to record it, and when he started, and I didn't get to hit record just quick enough. And so what you're gonna miss right away is that he was saying at that moment on Monday there was 1,000 Israelis that had died.
And more Israelis, and the majority of that number, that astronomical figure, are civilians, and more than 2,500 wounded. The reason for these outlandish numbers, and the fact that every few hours, unfortunately, sadly, they rise by the hundreds, sometimes with increments of 200 in each change, is because we find different areas of carnage where Hamas terrorists came in from Gaza and went from community to community, from location to location, and simply massacred Israeli civilians. The biggest of them all so far, and I hope this is definitive, the biggest of them all was a music festival where thousands of Israelis were participating in an outdoors music festival. Today we can confirm that we found 260 bodies in that location. And many of the Israelis that were taken hostage into Gaza are young men and women, civilians, from that music festival. Hold on, excuse me for a second. Okay, I understand that up until now I've been speaking without the camera. My bad. Sorry for that, but I hope you can see me now, and you know it's me. I suppose many of you still recognize my voice. Go back to the topic here. We have this amazing, almost a situation that we cannot understand, of dozens of Israelis that are held in Hamas captivity. I don't know if you have seen videos on social media of who those Israelis are. Let me tell you that they are women, children, they are elderly people, including an 80-year-old grandmother. There are toddlers and infants, and there are disabled people that have been taken by Hamas into Gaza. Many of them, by the way, with double citizenship, and I am aware of quite a few American nationals that are now in the hands of Hamas. There are also French, British, German, and from other countries, but this atrocity is first and foremost an Israeli threat and situation to deal with, but it touches on many other countries in the world as well. The situation in southern Israel is that finally the IDF and the other security forces, mainly the Israeli police, have regained full control over all the communities in southern Israel. And I say that as if that is something that isn't obvious, but unfortunately we learned over the last 60 hours that no, it wasn't obvious for us to be able to control our sovereign territory, sadly. And it took us many hours of fighting door to door in each and every community in order to finally clear all of the last Hamas terrorists. Most of them have been killed, and I think we are near 500 dead terrorists that were able to cross into Israel and went in killing sprees in Israel. Some of them holding Israelis captive, and some of them fighting against our security forces. But I assume that those figures will rise as well, and there will be more than 500 dead Hamas terrorists that were killed by our forces inside Israel. There are communities in southern Israel, and I know that you, Pastor Hagee, you've taken members of your community and you've seen them in southern Israel. There's a community called Be'eri, which used to be home to 1,000 Israelis, and out of that beautiful community, that kibbutz, I am aware of more than 100 dead members of that community. Think of having a tenth of your community murdered by terrorists. It is unimaginable. But that, unfortunately, is the reality. That is the magnitude of the atrocity that we are facing. And I want to focus, some people may say that, oh no, maybe they got carried away with themselves, Hamas. That isn't so. A few hours ago, actually yesterday, a Hamas senior said that the operation went according to plan and that he is happy with the results of their invasion of Israel, meaning that this was the plan, to kill Israeli civilians and soldiers and to abduct into Gaza Israeli civilians and soldiers. That was the plan. And as we go forward and start striking back at Hamas and claiming a very, very heavy price from them, we should all keep that in mind when we ask ourselves, how did we find ourselves in this situation? We have mobilized 300,000 reserve soldiers in less than 48 hours. That too is unprecedented in our history. Never before have we mobilized so many troops in such a short time. Those troops are being organized, they're getting their kit and equipment in order and preparing to execute the missions that we will be tasked to do by the Israeli government. As of now, the focal mission which the IDF has is to make sure that southern Israel is sovereign and in control of our security forces. Second, to keep the border shut and prevent any future attacks against Israeli civilians or the military. And third, bring the battle to Hamas. Now, I am not going to say here how exactly that is going to be done. It wouldn't be wise to advertise that in advance. But we have very significant troops amassed along the southern borders. And as we speak, our Air Force is striking Hamas's military facilities in Gaza, perhaps with a ferocity never seen before. And I am aware of Hamas casualties. I am aware of figures. As always, the so-called Gaza Health Ministry will disambiguate and try to hide who was a combatant and who was a civilian. And the numbers that will come out of Gaza will be that such and such many civilians have been killed, and they will never say that there were militants or terrorists that were killed, but we will know exactly how many terrorists we kill. I can say here, we are not looking, despite the fact that we are furious. The blood has been boiling and it hasn't settled for 62 hours, despite the high feelings. And despite all that we are going through in Israel, we remain committed to our human values. We are going to strike military targets. We are going to deliver crushing blows to Hamas's military capabilities, but we are not looking to kill civilians. The sad reality in Gaza, however, is that Hamas uses the civilians as their human shields. We will not try to strike civilians, but unfortunately, if Hamas places these civilians in harm's way, responsibility lies squarely on the shoulders of Hamas. A word about the region. We have had attacks in the north, both attempts to cross our border and infiltrate by ground-borne units. They have been repelled successfully, and there are no casualties, no civilian casualties in the north. There has been rocket fire reported just a few minutes ago. I am not aware of any significant casualties as we speak, but we are on high alert in the north against any attempt by Hezbollah, Hamas, or the Islamic Jihad, or anybody else of the heinous criminals that are hiding in Lebanon to attack. And in that sense, it's important to mention here that the U.S. Central Command sent a very positive message, and it's been seen and heard loud and clear in the region. There is a U.S. battle group advancing east in the eastern Mediterranean, and the battle and the message of that battle group is that it is here, and it is urging any of the terrorist organizations in the region not to think that this is a good opportunity to join the fighting and strike Israel. And that level of statements and, if needed, actions are very important, and we are very thankful for that level of commitment and the level of coordination from the top down, Prime Minister, all the way down to the military leaders, strong, intimate communications and coordinations, including replenishment of our supplies of Iron Dome interceptors and munitions and anything else. And I'm very happy to hear the statements made by the U.S. President, by Secretary Blinken, and by the military leaders, and also by Secretary Allen, about the situation and about the support towards Israel. I will conclude with saying that these are unprecedented times in our history. The grief is almost overwhelming. The images that we see coming out of southern Israel and the Gaza Strip are gruesome, and they bring to memory things of our dark past in the Second World War and other times when Jews were left defenseless. There are very difficult questions that are being asked by Israeli civilians and civil society, and they will be answered by the IDF and the relevant authorities. This will take years to amend, but our focus is now on fighting the enemy, on repelling strikes, and on delivering decisive blows against any of our enemies, first and foremost Hamas, that has struck our civilians and violated our sovereignty in such an unprecedented way. I'd like to say a last thing. As always, you know how appreciative I personally am of your support, and on behalf of the IDF, the men and women in all of the security service, IDF, police, Israeli Security Agency, the fire brigades, and everybody, and Magen David Adom, our medical services, everybody has been out on the streets fighting and caring for our Israeli civilians. Your support is cherished, important, vital for us to be able to continue to do our job, and we appreciate it very much. And I thank you for having me here, Pastor Hagee, and I wish that the next time we speak, I will be able to be the bearer of positive news, of progress, advances, and of decisive blows against our enemies.
Lieutenant Colonel Conricus, we appreciate your giving us this briefing, and please extend to all of the people in your chain of command that you meet, and people in Christians United for Israel, all 10 million of us are praying for you, and we pray God's speed and protection, that he that keepeth Israel in neither slumbers nor sleeps, but rise to the occasion and deliver Israel once again. God bless you for all that you do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I will forward your message, and thank you.
Thank you. This concludes what we're doing here today. God bless you all, and thank you for being a part of this telecast.
So it was Monday afternoon, and with, like I said, 3 students. There's 3 students that have been kind of really, God's kind of directed them and put a passion for Israel kind of in their hearts. And then Mrs. Collins, who is our headmaster at Victory Christian. And so the 5 of us stood in the office and listened to that. Since then, for us, we have taken an approach of talking just openly with some of the students, especially high schoolers, and then also our upper middle schoolers, our 8th graders, and just talking through them. I got to tell you, there's we're careful what we say, obviously. But I remember yesterday, I'm standing on the deck right in front of my class, and my counterpart, who's the other Bible teacher, students are coming out and just crying, and they're just weeping for the people of Israel, right? And why? Desperation.